Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and this one is a bit of a surprise to me, honestly. NATO Chief, in speech to Congress, declares Trump's push for more defense spending is working. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, in a historic address to Congress, declared Wednesday that President Trump's push for NATO allies to increase their defense spending has had an impact and made the alliance stronger. Allies must spend more on defense. This has been the clear message from President Trump, he said, and this message is having a real impact. NATO does not have a defense budget, but members commit to spending a minimum of 2% of their gross domestic products on defense. Trump, however, has repeatedly called out members that do not meet that commitment, even as this campaign has caused friction with longtime U.S. allies. The United States spends 3.5% of its GDP on defense, and Trump has long called for fellow NATO members to put up their share. As Trump himself has taken credit for nations agreeing to increase their spending pledges, Stoltenberg said that NATO is stronger as a result of U.S. pressure. After years of reducing defense budgets, all allies have stopped the cuts, and all allies have increased their defense spending. Before they were cutting billions, now they are adding billions. Stoltenberg told lawmakers that European allies and Canada have added an additional $41 billion in the last 2 years, and that by the end of 2020, that figure will rise to $100 billion. That money will allow us to invest in new capabilities our armed forces need, including advanced fighter aircraft, attack helicopters, missile defense, and surveillance drones, he said. This is good for Europe, and this is good for America. In a wide-ranging speech in which he talked about NATO's importance in winning the Cold War and fighting Russian aggression and terrorism, he also praised the U.S. and NATO's effort to defeat ISIS in the Middle East, saying the coalition made remarkable progress. Thanks to American leadership and our collective efforts, we have stopped this brutality and millions of people have been liberated, he said. The speech coincides with events marking the 70th anniversary of the alliance's founding charter. Stoltenberg, a two-time Prime Minister of Norway and the first NATO chief to address a joint meeting of Congress, spoke a day after having met with President Trump, where both officials hailed the increase in alliance spending. But Trump has, in the past, expressed reservations about NATO, primarily stemming from the spending issue, which in turn threatened to rock the alliance. The New York Times reported in January that Trump had suggested withdrawing the U.S. from NATO several times in 2018, and that officials feared he could return to the threat if Allied military spending continued to lag. On Tuesday, President Trump said, along Stoltenberg, not quite sure how that's supposed to read, maybe you need a copy editor as well. On Tuesday, President Trump said, this may be alongside Stoltenberg, that the relationship with NATO has been very good, and he hailed tremendous progress on the question of defense spending. But he noted that Germany, in particular, was not, according to him, paying what they should be paying. Germany is not paying their fair share, he said. That last one, again, copy edited. That's a few too many commas there. Guys, I'm a history major. I'm not an English major. I did pretty good to pass my English classes most years. And even then, I can tell those are some pretty awkward sentences. But this is something that, honestly, should be a no-brainer. Let's put it in some of the most simplest terms. You are in a college class where you're given a group project, and you are working with mostly people you are friends with, not just mere acquaintances, but you are friendly and friends with them. But the vast majority of them don't even pull their weight, let alone actually try to contribute in a meaningful way. You are doing more than what the general expectation is. In all ways of saying it, you are carrying the group. Let's say that this project involves some expense, and prior to the project beginning, you agree to split the costs of this expenses equally. But each time you come to them saying, I need this amount of money from each of you so I can get the materials needed, everyone says, well, I don't have it right now, I'll pay you back. You pay out of pocket, you never get paid back. Yes, this is going to cause friction because you're going to see yourself as being used. They're all going to be fine. You start basically saying that you're going to make it clear in your report that you carried the group, and that's going to affect them negatively. It will cause friction in the group. True friends, however, true allies, will see that you are doing this so that they can benefit in every way possible. NATO has, for years, defended themselves using things bought with predominantly US money. By contributing, they're going to not only ensure that the budget is very much covered, but they're also going to show that they're people, that they are committed in all ways to defense. Why would you respect anyone who tells you that you're part of an alliance and your part in that alliance is taking from the alliance, not contributing in any way? We hear other stories coming out of Europe where supposedly certain law enforcement agencies are told not to reveal the religion of an attacker if it happens to damage the public view of Muslims. We hear other reports out of Europe where now people are calling for GPS trackers of knives because, of course, without ready access to firearms, criminals will move to blades. From there, they move to blunt objects, or they use cars, or they use rudimentary bombs. We're moving towards a world that needs defense. And we've seen that it works. We've seen in the flagging days of the Cold War that pure economics can bring a country to its knees. Unfortunately, in the days after, we then propped that country up, and now they're right back to a threat in economics and in other ways. And in his moves to basically reinstate the Reaganomics idea of, fine, we'll drill our own oil, we won't buy from Russia. We have people actually criticizing that. We've seen that cooperative efforts in the Middle East have all but eliminated the ISIS caliphate. Yet we have people who now want to castigate President Trump for holding NATO accountable and holding them accountable in a way that allows for that alliance to eliminate terror cells. If you don't see this and realize that the liberals in Washington who are just crying crocodile tears over everything President Trump does that is not in their outline of how to run a country, and you don't see that they are actually damaging the country by obstructing the moves to eliminate terrorism and get our allies to pull their fair weight, then you need to open your eyes. Because very plainly, Trump's refusal to enact gun control is not tyranny. Lowering the taxes is not tyranny. Calling for our allies to pull their fair weight is not tyranny. It is the work of a man trying to ensure that the country he is now leading, and doing so for no salary, by the way, is as strong and well defended as possible. And now, after 8 years of Obama giving lip service to the very same things and not actually doing anything about it, we have a man willing to put action where words once were all that we had. And the deep state members, the swamp things, are just scared out of their mind that if this works, it will be exposed that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, Dianne Feinstein, Kamala Harris, Maxine Waters, Booker, Sanders, and all of the rest will be exposed as not caring one whit about the people that they are elected to serve and represent. And if that ever happens, their stranglehold on power in D.C. might weaken. We have the chief, NATO Chief, Stoltenberg, telling us very plainly that Donald Trump's tactics of not being the kind and always forgiving friend who just says, that's fine, I'll do everything, is working. At this point, I honestly am waiting for Pelosi or Schumer, Harris, or one of them to come out and say that he was threatened, he was intimidated into doing that. Donald Trump is weakening the planet. Kamala Harris wants to give free education, free health care, and free everything to anyone and everyone who happens to make it across our border. Bernie Sanders wants to do the same and more. Ocasio-Cortez wants to implement a Green New Deal that will cost $100 trillion plus when all is said and done. They'll, of course, couch this in, well, we're only going to raise taxes on the rich. Well, when the rich are living comfortably on an income that is not considered rich because they've retired and pared down their investments so that their dividends cover their expenses every month and don't leave anything wanting, but it's not big enough to be considered rich, the cap will come down. And it will continue to come down until we hear, well, now we are just in a place where everyone needs to step up and pay their fair share, which will be 70+% of your income. Stoltenberg has shown us that if we pull the flagging and uncooperative members of an alliance out of their stump and make them actually live up to their word, it works. So we need to pull the same thing on Congress and show them that lower taxes work. Because when people have more of their money, they spend more of their money. Yes, we may collect less income tax, but luxury taxes, sales taxes, all of these other things will go up. Businesses will be created, and income tax will have to be taken from their employees. The NATO chief has given us the foot in the door, showing us that, yes, President Trump is doing what he said. We just now need to give them that whack on the head to make them wake up and reconnect their brain to realize that there are steps we can take that go even further than this. But the question is whether that will ever happen or if it even is possible. But I've talked long enough. Make sure and let me know what you think. Keep the comments civil and classy. We don't learn from arguments, we learn from debate. Also, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you get notifications whenever I'm posting new information. I'm always working on new ideas and finding rabbit holes to go down. I'm just wanting to make sure that I'm going to be able to do them justice. So you'll want to be subscribed with those notifications to make sure you hear everything on that. Until next time, everyone have a wonderful day.